Welcome to this first lesson of the dance course. Now in this lesson we're just going to look at setting up Logic, and I'm just going to explain some of the differences between Logic Pro X and Logic Pro 9. I'm going to be using Logic Pro X here, so if you're using Logic Pro 9 there's not much difference, but there's a couple of things that you just need to know that are going to be in different places, and I'll just show you them anyway. So the first thing we need to do is open Logic. Now in your taskbar you will have this icon here. Double click on this and then what you'll get is this kind of big screen here. If for some reason this big pop-up doesn't come up, you can always go to File and then New Project, and then it will give you this. I like to start mine just by using a software instrument and then pressing Create. Now let's just set up our Macintosh first. So if we come up to the Apple icon, what you're going to find here is all of your kind of general settings, how to turn it off, how to set up the actual preferences and so on. The ones we want to do first are the sound preferences. So if we go into System Preferences, and then from here we've got our sound, and we just need to make sure that these are set up to what we're using our inputs and outputs. So if you're using a microphone or if you're using speakers, they just need to connect, okay? So if you're just using built-in stuff, say for instance you've got an iMac where everything's built in, the microphone's built in, the speakers are built in, or the headphones are built in, you can just go ahead and use these internal speakers for this output tab, okay? I'm using this one here. You won't have this. This is an external hardware unit. So just press internal speakers, and then for the microphone you can just use the line in or the actual microphone. Once you've done that, that is absolutely done. You can close that panel. No need to save. The next thing you might want to do is just speed up your mouse. If you come back to System Preferences under the Apple icon, you can then go to this mouse one. Depending on what kind of mouse you're using, it's going to look slightly different. The one that you want is this tracking option, and you just want to set that to fast. If you've got a really big screen, it's going to take you no time at all in fast, but if it's slow, from getting to one side of the screen to the other, it takes quite a long time. So just make sure that's set to fast. Probably best you don't change any of the other settings. Once you've done that, you can close that. The only other thing you may need to do if you've got system issues is inside of Logic Pro X, make sure you click on Logic Pro X first, and then you want to come to Logic Pro X menu and then go down to Preferences, and you've got this extra audio tab. And if you've got a few issues, it may just be that your audio tab under Outputs and Inputs isn't set up to what you've got in the Mac icon, in the Apple icon. So just make sure these two options are set up the same, okay? Once you've done that, you can close that. If you've changed anything, you do need to press the Apply Changes this time. And that's pretty much all of our settings. We're going to start off by just making sure our MIDI keyboard or MIDI device is connected. So if you've got a USB MIDI device connected, just play it now and just see if it works, okay? Now what I need to do is set up an instrument for this. So if we come up to my instruments here, now this is where Logic Pro 9 and Logic Pro 10 changes. My instruments are all set up under this icon. If you've got Logic Pro 9, let me just bring up a screenshot of Logic Pro 9. Your libraries are all set over on the right hand side, and this is the main difference. In Logic Pro 9, all of your loops and your libraries are over on the right hand side, and you can get to them by pressing this media icon and then scrolling through them. That is pretty much the only change that we need to discuss here. So let's go back to Logic Pro 10. So if you're going through your library, come over to here, make sure you've got either loops or library selected, and then you can change your instruments. So let's just start with a drum kit. Let's just make sure we've got a sound coming from our instrument. So actually let's do a piano. Let me just scroll back. Using the scroll handle here, we can just scroll back and let's go piano, and it doesn't really matter. Double click on that and you can see it's changed. Now let's press my keyboard. And that's lovely, and I can see that that's all working. If for some reason you don't get sound after setting up the actual instrument itself, you may need to restart your computer. Sometimes in Logic Pro 9 and Logic Pro 10 it does have this tendency of crashing. If that's the case, just shut everything down and restart, and that should bring you back to scratch. Now what I like to do to get started with is just to save my project. So what I now do is come up to the File menu, come down to where it says Save and press Save, and then get myself a folder. So I normally go to my documents here. If for some reason you can't see this documents tab, there's been a couple of instances where this gets hidden. Okay, so what you need to do is come back up to the Finder. So if you click on your desktop and then you get this Finder menu, what we now need to do is go Preferences, and then under this sidebar options, which is this bit here, you'll see that there's this Documents option, and we just need to make sure that that is ticked. Okay, so if you can't see this document, just tick that. That's where we're going to save everything. Inside of here, I'm just going to create a new folder. In order to create a folder on a Mac, just right click on this little icon and click New Folder, and then you can say My Project or whatever. Okay, once you've done that, just deselect it, and that's where you can then save your work. Once you've done all that, we're pretty much good to go to start creating our dance track. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson.